Those of you that follow my Instagram at Power Rangergram will already know this, but for those of you that are new, I'm going to tease this out. I was bought my very first Power Rangers toy back in 1994. It was the 4-inch Red Ranger figure, which was basically the Japanese U-Ranger figure just repackaged in a Power Rangers vacuum pack, which by the way was a nightmare to open. It's far from my favourite toy of all time, and fortunately the Automorphins came quite soon after to replace it. But I can't ignore that that was it, the humble start for something that has never really stopped. Over the years my collecting has been a bit on and off, but overall it's amounted to quite a lot. What I've not been able to grasp for years now is what it all looks side by side in terms of scale. That idea is what caused me to want to get the band back together. Now I know it's not as much as some people's truly awe-inspiring collections, but I know it's not nothing either. During the summer I decided that I was going to do this at some point, but I knew it would take hours just to get everything out, and then to have to assemble it in a chronological order, which seemed like the only sensible way of doing it. At the moment, pretty much everything I have is boxed up really efficiently to take up the least amount of space. Unfortunately, what that means is you have to dig through several boxes just to get out one complete season at a time. Summer never really happened in England this year, and before I knew it we were getting into autumn or fall. Things were starting to look pretty dicey weather-wise. We'd had some rain and cold weather, but the Saturday I went for looked okay, if a little chilly. But I thought, well, I'll be moving around a lot, so I shouldn't worry about it. Spoiler, I probably should have. The day started out quite well, and there was the appropriate blast of nostalgia just by seeing everything again. Some of this stuff I probably hadn't seen for 3 years since I last moved. And you know when you handle something that has like an emotional connection to your past, you can't help but get swept up in it. But I also had to marry it up with my Dino Charge and Legacy stuff, which were kept separately because they're obviously a lot newer. I did originally consider unboxing everything, but if you've ever unboxed 3 or more Megazords at a time, you know what a time killer that can be. So the rule I went for in the end, and I think it was quite sensible, was if it had a box, it would stay in it. It turns out there were quite a lot of things in boxes, so unboxing everything never would have worked anyway. And after about 3 hours, I finally had pretty much my entire Power Rangers collection displayed together chronologically side by side. And because Legacy is kind of an oddball, I fitted that in the middle of everything and kind of folded the timeline around the outside of it. Yes, pretty sad I know, but whatever, that's kind of a common thread here. I say pretty much everything because in the hours and days that followed, I kept remembering some extraneous items that I'd forgotten to bring down. The Ninja Storm villains, my SDCC Mighty Morphin Key set, which you remember I reviewed a few months back. My 20-inch Super Megaforce Red, which I've never really known what to do with. Things like that, so I had probably 95% of everything there on the day. I also didn't have these at the time, so I could finally see what all the time, money and effort had amounted to. I could see glaring gaps, things where I'd not bought things I originally wanted. Though I've done a pretty good job over the last few years of filling in the things that I'm still wanting. I still need an action figure of Phantom Ranger and Serpentera, but we'll get there. Now, I don't buy everything from every season by any means. If you think how much gets released every year, that would just be insane to keep up with. So I've always operated by getting in and out and only buying the stuff that I like. Obviously, Mighty Morphin is the huge corner piece here. For that, I've got loads of book, comic and magazine tie-ins. Toy-wise, I've got all of the Megazords, Command Center and Season 1 bikes, various villains in different scales, flip heads, the morpher, the weapons. It was definitely a huge chunk of the collection. After that, things aren't quite as bountiful, and there are a few reasons for that. In case you're interested in what my strategy for buying into seasons is, what really hooks me in are the Megazords. If that gets me, I'll pretty much take whatever suit design is going, because I know I need some action figures to stand with it. After Zeo, I stopped buying the Morphers too, which in hindsight was a slight mistake given that they cost about £10 or dollars at the time. I just wasn't using them anymore and it seemed like a bit of a waste. For Zeo, I've got all of the Zords, a mix of figures, the Morpher, and a solitary cycle. Turbo, I've got most of the Rangers represented in figures and all of the Zords. There's the action figure size Turbo Ram 2, which combines in two ways and separates out into weapons. For in space, it's same again, all of the Zords and the Rangers, and this time the Mega Tank mini playset. For Lightspeed Rescue, it's all of the Zords and the rescue versions of the figures. That year, Bandai UK actually sent me their industry brochure so I could see what was being released. We never got a Mega Megazord in the UK, so that along with Max Solar Zord was actually my first eBay purchase. In Time Force, things picked up a bit as we got an original command center. I never really got sucked into buying Ranger bikes before because they all look the same and what do they really even do? But I liked the jet, which the 5 main Rangers could fly on, so I got that. I've got all of the Megazords, the Ranger figures, and the most recent buy from Japan, the Providus base playset for the Time Flyers. I like that. Ninja Storm is one I bought years later, so the main Megazords and figures are all secondhand. I also recently bought Japan's Revolver Mammoth and the Wave 1 Legacy figures, though as I've said previously, they're not coming out of the box unless we get the other 3. Not pictured, but I also have several of the Ninja Storm villains too. Again, I had the industry brochure from Bandai. It was actually smaller and slightly cheaper quality that year, but I didn't care. Now you might notice that there is a massive gap in the chronology between that season and the next. I randomly have Shogun Red in small and giant sizes from Samurai, plus the famous Mystery Ranger. The delightful 4-inch Rita is technically from that year too, though I've got her in with the legacy stuff. I said I went off Morphers, but I've actually been back in on them lately because of the increased playability. I got Gosei Morpher over a year after it was released on a crazy 80% off sale for $5.99, which is about $8. It was too cheap to refuse, and I like that you can actually print the cards out yourself and the Morpher can still read them. That's impressive. The Super Megaforce theming I was mad keen on, particularly the Japanese products. I have all of the Eastern versions of the Zords, the majority of the roleplay items like the Mobiritz, Gokai Cellular, the Blaster and Sword, plus keys of the whole team and every Red Ranger from Power Rangers up until that point. With thanks to Bandai America, I also have the action heroes from that year, apart from Super Samurai Red and SPD Omega, because I decided I didn't need them. Tracking some of those figures down was an absolutely horrendous task because we never got them all in England. For comparison's sake, I also have the Super Megaforce Morpher, Sword and Blaster from the West too, along with a lot of American keys which I put in a frame. And lastly, so far in my chronology, seasons 22 and 23, Dino Charge. For this I actually went back to Bandai America for the Megazords, as it was actually the Japanese ones that let people down that year with fragile clips. Plus the Bandai America designs were actually pretty great overall. I even have 3 of the 4 Zords they created as American exclusives, apart from Oviraptor, which I didn't want at all. I had the roleplay items, including the hard-to-find Dinocom and the ridiculously valuable VIP Charger set, which I actually got from the old Toys R Us in Times Square. Here's another couple great Bandai Morphers because of that complementary integration with the Megazord line. I got as many of the 5-inch figures as I thought were important, so all the Rangers and the villains, including that notorious Poisandra, which cost 7 times as much as any other figure. I also have a Dino Cycle bike because I liked that it wasn't colour specific and on the show at least still used a Dino Charger, so kind of seemed more like a Zord. When I started collecting Dino Charge I really couldn't visualise just how much there would be or how difficult some of it was going to be to obtain. But I like the idea of going out on one last hurrah with dinosaurs as the theme again, kind of bookending my collection. And I like the unique appeal of there being 10 Rangers for the first time. During those seasons I felt really engaged with the brand again, and we'll see because I have said this before, but I think for the time being Dino Charge is going to be my last new season. Power Rangers Legacy meanwhile provides some much needed nostalgia in wonderfully crafted high-end versions. So far I've been a sucker for all of the screen accurate Zords, most of the roleplay items and all of the Mighty Morphin figures. I'm really excited that we're moving on to Zeo now, but I hope they give us that Legacy Shogun Megazord we're after and finish what they started. The other stuff beside the Legacy collection is the large amount of tie-in product we've had, most of which is recent. I have all of the Shout Factory DVD sets, the German Blu-ray set, and all 3 movies. I've got the Boom Comics graphic novels and the vinyl soundtrack re-release. I've also got Soul of Chogokin Megazord and my movie line action hero figures over here too. It's a lot. And I think laying it all out together really made me see that properly for the first time. It's not the endless well of some collections, but it is a collection curated through my own interests. I never just bought a season for the sake of it. I actually liked what I was seeing and I wanted to buy a model of it. Appreciating the whole spectacle of it was really difficult to take in at the time because I knew I had to get a move on and that it would probably take another 3 hours to clear away again, and the sunlight really wasn't going to last that long in mid-September. But in the weeks that have passed, I've really been quite thankful to my own fastidious nature of buying the complete sets of things that I felt were valuable. Oh, and also looking after the boxes where I could. So that was all great, and I really enjoyed displaying my collection in this way. Just as I was about to start dismantling my pop-up installation, I felt and heard a small patter of rain. And then some more. And then a lot more. And that's what we're going to be talking about next time. Until then, see you later.